So this week I'm doing the opposite to last week's case study. So last week I tried to find out if through palmistry we could determine dishonesty, honesty, sexual deviancy, or any kind of crooked sexual psychological makeup by looking at the palm, by seeing what the palm can show us. I was trying to determine if Russell Brand, in fact, was, if there was any truth behind the allegations made against him, and if the palm could show us that. Bit of a crazy undertaking because it's very difficult to do. Even if I had the clarity that I needed, I didn't have the clarity, unfortunately. I wasn't happy with last week's reading. This week, we're doing Katie Hobbs. She's a governor of Arizona. She has a background in social work. She was a social worker in 1992. And she was fighting for homelessness, domestic abuse, and mental health. That's literally all I know about her. I mean, that's straight from the Wikipedia page. It might not even be accurate. But I know that she's been Googled a lot, and I just wanted to see, okay, how can we see how good things are? How can we sort of do a bit of reverse palmistry this week? Rather than trying to find out what the palm can say, let's have a look at what the palm is telling us what we already know. So just to kind of get down to the characteristics here and the classification of the palm, this is not a great image to classify. To classify the sort of type of person, the type of palm that we're looking at, we need to have the angle needs to be correct, otherwise it distorts findings. And we kind of have that here and here. So you can see from this image, the palm is long, it's longer than it is wide, and the fingers look short, and that's probably the best we can do. They're not long fingers, so we're going with a fire hand. The palm itself is quite squarish. There's lots of, it's very uniform. There's a lot of straight edges there. It's a square-ish rectangle, and I know that's an oxymoron. It's certainly, she's a fire hand, but she's a bit of a mix. A practical palm, a square palm, an elementary, but with so most of the fingers. The Jupiter finger is a bit square. If you look at the tip of it, it's kind of flattened off there, whereas the rest of the fingers are rounded. So there's some conic features to the palm, but overall some squarish features. So we have the enthusiasm and the impulsive nature, that fiery kind of motivation that the fire hand brings with those conic features, but also that grounded practicality, that solid, logical and reliable squareness as well. And you can see in the nails there, Jupiter is particularly square, which is not common. The most common fingernail shape for Jupiter is conic. So most people have a conic Jupiter fingernail and then spatulate. The rest of the fingernails generally spatulate, and that shows decisions are made more based on impulse. So this person is very practical with her decision making, and that's not just shown by the fingernail, but the squareness, the way that Jupiter finger tapers off into the sort of flatness that we see here. Notice how also, I know obviously I've said that this image isn't great for angle, but look at the width of Jupiter. It's wider at the bottom, but overall it's a beast, isn't it? And it just sort of shows us this person has a strong sense of righteousness, of judgment, authority. She's the boss, she's in control. It's interesting because this is just who she is. Even if she was a cook in a kitchen or a cleaner, she'd still somehow carry out this role of authority, and people would gravitate towards her and just, somehow she'd be delegating whatever role that she was in. It wouldn't matter if she was organising paper clips in a cupboard. Somehow, you would be delegated by her after spending not too much time with her at all. And that's just because it's just who she is. She's one of those people that, as a kid in the playground, she was probably having everyone lining up and, telling them what to do as when she was playing around and role playing. And it's interesting how, look at Saturn, it leans towards Jupiter there. And I'm not going to, explain what all the finger, all this terminology means. I'm just going to keep repeating myself if I do that in every video. So I think I'll make a video for sort of the basics and just sort of explain it in those and say, refer to that one. So look at Saturn, the middle finger here, it leans towards Jupiter. And that shows us that her sense of right and wrong, her career, her duty, and her planning, a sense of planning, because that's what Saturn is as well. It's the inevitable, and that's why it's Kronos, the god of time. It's and that's why planning is involved with it, and what we need to do, our duty, our career. And that's why that Saturn leans towards Jupiter, because Jupiter is the overall, how do I put this? It's that kind of main strut of the where her abilities lie, where her strengths lie. She's a Jupiterian, in that the main qualities that drive her career lies on all things Jupiter. So ego, ambition, authority, teaching, judgment, decision making, ambition. These are all Jupiterian qualities, and all things career-wise and conscience-wise, duty-wise, time planning-wise, rely on Jupiter. Jupiter is long. It reaches past, it seems, the halfway mark of the first phalanx of Saturn. I mean, this isn't exactly, a precise science here, and that's why I suppose palmistry is referred to an art form as well as science. The art and science of palmistry. So look here, here's the first phalanx of Saturn, and look where Jupiter reaches. It reaches further than halfway of the first phalanx of Saturn, and that's how we can determine a long Jupiter finger. And also corroborating or correlating, cross-referencing, if you like, where Jupiter lies, or how far set it is on the palm in comparison with Saturn when doing that as well, is another way of just trying to determine the length of Jupiter overall, and whether or not that's a long Jupiter finger. And if you look on the other palm, I mean, obviously this is not exact at all, but you can see that Jupiter, it almost looks as long as Saturn. It's a very long Jupiter finger, and that length shows us control, confidence, but also a born leader. It's the right palm. The left also has it as well. And it'd be really interesting to see. We don't really have clarity in any images here. There's not many images, but they're clear enough. It would be nice to see just how long that Jupiter finger is in comparison on left and right, to see just how much control she has over her life now, how much more confidence she has now in comparison to what was inherently sort of given to her. But overall, this is someone who's in control. Now, Jupiter, the tip of Jupiter, the first phalanx there, it's long, and it shows us someone who is religiously sort of thinking. The third phalanx, so that basal phalanx of Jupiter, is, as I have said, it's quite wide, it's quite sort of chubby, and particularly with an inferiority complex, so that's a short Jupiter finger, with the combination of this kind of the width of the basal phalanx of Jupiter, we see an inferiority complex compensated for by drinking or drugs, or turning to a sex addiction. And that's what we saw last week in Russell Brand's poem. We see that misogyny. We see, it's very common in men. He only has a mild inferiority complex, but here we probably see that we don't see an inferiority complex, but we do see This is a lady who throws her weight around quite a bit. So she, this third phalanx, remember it's physical, it's body. So we've got body, mind, and spirit as you work your way up the phalanges of the fingers. So this third basal phalanx, this is the body, this is physical, this is how she demonstrates her authority with her physicality. So she may well, I'm not sure how to better explain it than that. Now, if we saw a thumb that was quite sort of bulbous and ballooned as it sort of came jutted out of the palm here, and if we saw a very spatulate, heavy clubbed thumb, then we would have something to worry about in conjunction with this, because it would potentially show some signs of aggression, anger issues. If we saw the amount of Mars, inner Mars there, if that was overdeveloped, it is well developed, then again I think we'd have something to worry about. The thumb is well developed, however, and it's in equal proportions. Again, if we saw an overly large first phalanx of the thumb there, then it would be something to be concerned about. This throwing around of the weight would end up becoming something actually physical and potential violence. But no, this is someone who is authoritative, understands that she is the right person for the job, and uses her sort of physicality when communicating, I would think. And that's sort of evident as well by the width of the basal phalanx of Mercury as well. She's a good physical communicator. This is a lady who understands her body and how to use it, and good for her. Now, moving on, let's talk about loyalty, as this was the original aim here. Check out this line here. Now, this is a loyalty line, I believe, sometimes referred to as a duty line. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up with the career or fate line. It's certainly a loyalty line, and it crosses past the family ring. It comes from this place of ideas, concepts, and logic. So here we have logic and here we have willpower. They are both in equal proportions, and this means that this person is measured in her responses and she will argue her point if she thinks it's right. She won't back down, but at the same time she'll take things on board. She'll listen. So it's measured. And this is exactly the person you need to be when you're in the role of a civil servant or a social worker. And notice how this loyalty line it cuts right through family. This is someone who's willing to fight for what's right, regardless of who gets in the way. It's almost as though, family is important. That's a deep and meaningful what is that supposed to be? That's a deep and meaningful family ring. It cuts through deeply. It shows that she cares. She is a very sort of family-driven person. She's a very religious person. But she's willing to sacrifice in order to do what's right. And this is someone who is quite clearly invested in what she believes in. This is a social justice warrior, for lack of a better word. And this loyalty line shows us someone who's honest. It shows us someone who is willing to fight for what's right, regardless of the consequences. And on the subject of fighting, we have here a Mars line which runs parallel with her lifeline. So it sort of aids in the ability, the need to fight. So it's sometimes known as a guardian line, a guardian angel line. And wherever there is a need to fight your battles, you have this kind of assistance running alongside that. And really what this means is, at the time of this person's life here, so from this time onwards, which is around the age of 25 right up to her 40s, right up to her mid-40s, 25 to 45, she is fighting. And luck is on her side, I suppose. She's got what she needs, that vitality, her immune system, to stave off any kind of illnesses she might have throughout this period. So it is a physical assistance, but also it's this kind of the mental assistance as well, to keep her going, to keep her strong at the time when she needs it in her life. Now, Mars, as I've said, inner Mars is strong as well, and that provides her with this drive, motivation, and sort of sense of aggression to do what needs to be done, to do what's necessary, to fight for those in need. And also, as I've said, the Jupiter mount in general is well formed, it's large, as is the Jupiter finger. Now, these are all qualities, and the thumb as well, as I've said. These are all qualities necessary to fight, but also to know what's right to fight for, to know. She knows when to pick up battles. She knows what to fight for. She has a good sense of right and wrong, but her conscience certainly relies on her ability to make decisions, which sounds a little bit weird now I say it, because it should be the other way around, I suppose. Your ability to make decisions should rely on your conscience. But it sort of seems that there's a possibility here for her conscience to, in some way, shelter beneath her ego. Now, there's a danger there, I suppose, because power certainly corrupts. But I don't think there's any immediate danger of that happening. The headline is long, and a headline that reaches the other end of the palm, as this one does here, it shows us a few things. Firstly, that this person is able to think ahead. She's able to consider others. She's able to look at details in full, think about the bigger picture. She's able to, unlike most fire hands, absorb all of the details and work to regulations. And most fire hands don't have the patience for that. And I assume this is because of her squareness of that Jupiter finger. She's able to make decisions on behalf of others and work from the rule book. So a long headline like this as well is also indicative of someone who is affecting the lives of many. Someone with a long headline is one of the signs of fame in palmistry, because when you're affecting so many lives, I suppose it just sort of stands to reason. It's one of the signs of fame. And obviously her decisions have an impact, a knock-on effect of the lives of many. Now, as always with these images, I swipe offline. You can't really get too much detail. However, I have managed to determine one thing a bit more specific about this person's life, and that is that at the age of about 23 to 24, there was a significant event in her life that was emotionally impactful. I think she went through heartbreak at this time. I think she had her heart broken. Either there was some severe disillusionment emotionally, or some disappointment that led her down the path she's on. I think she has seen things, and it's, there was something that made her have this kind of light bulb moment about, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I think that for her occurred around the age of 23, 24, something like that. It's a particularly, you can see just about the heart line sort of crashing in to the headline here. And as I've said in earlier videos, this is the emotions kind of reaching towards the head, the mind, relying on logic to kind of say, okay, I need help here. I need logic at this time. I'm too, I can't rely on my emotions right now in order to make the right decisions. And this is the heart asking the head for help, essentially. And you can see only just, it's really hard to see in this image, but there's a sort of it's not an island, it's like a circle, and that's a bit more of it's not just an unfortunate event of, difficulty or stress. It's something a bit more nefarious, something a bit more potentially evil, malicious, some sort of intent from another, a very cruel event or instance. We can say that with some certainty. As to what this is, who knows? But it certainly impacted her in a big way. Now, her health line, it's interesting. It's a health line because it touches the lifeline. It's pretty good, although I'm wondering about this lady's liver. I think she's a bit of a drinker. Oops. And I actually think that that's partly what this represents here as well. And in fact, the basal phalanx of Jupiter does represent the liver itself. But the fact that it's wide, and as I've said, it shows a physical Jupiterian quality, and that's often related to drinking. And in the liver line itself, sometimes referred to as, or the health line, there is a bit of a disturbance here where the liver's concerned. Now, most of the time, the health line, has no real kind of indication as to how the liver's doing. But this area right here is the liver. It's very close to the suprarenal area of the hand, the adrenal glands. And, looking at the colour now, thinking about it, notice how the area of the palm in question is a little bit sort of whiter, a little bit more yellow than the rest of the palm. The palm in general is quite sort of reddish, possible high blood pressure issues. But, this bilious nature, perhaps here, it's hard to know because there's no real quality here. Adrenal-wise, I would look for horizontal lines on the phalanges, in particular, the second phalanges of the fingers, and the first as well. I mean, I can't really see in the clarity here in terms of, looking at her endocrine system, her adrenal system. It's not really possible. It's just not enough clarity. In any case, let's get back to the topic at hand, honesty. So, the little finger, Mercury, it is the finger of communication and expression. Now, a crooked little finger can show us how someone's ability to express or communicate can also be crooked. And it is really that simple, but trying to determine what a crooked little finger isn't actually as easy as it sounds. Now, we've only got a few images here to work with, but looking at her little finger, we can see it is straight. It's straight in this image as well. Look at how it's sort of completely parallel with the palm itself. There's a great amount of order to it, when comparing it with the heel of the palm, the palm's edge, the ulnar side there, side of percussion, if you like. And that shows us that her unconsciously, her unconscious thoughts are in line with what she's expressing and what she's communicating, the message that she's communicating. So it's a good basis for honesty right there. Now, notice how the little finger, it is straight. There's nothing crooked about it. And the first phalanx is long. This is someone who is a good articulator. But notice how it kind of curls. And it doesn't curl. It's leaning inwards. It's not flexing outwards. Now, someone with flexible fingers has their truth is flexible. Now, that's particularly true for the Mercury finger. However, I don't mean it this isn't flexing. This is just sort of, turning inwards towards the palm a little bit. She's just moved it a little. What I mean by flexing is the other way. So, let's say, for example, you notice someone's little finger bends backwards slightly, right? The other way. Now that's flexible. That means their truth is flexible. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a liar, but it does mean that they are a gossip, all right? So their truth is not as they're not as able to keep a secret. So their truth is escaping them, if that makes sense. Now, when someone's finger is straight, they have those principles there. They're aligned. Whenever you have straight fingers, you have alignment. And so when you have someone with a straight Jupiter, like Katie Hobbs has, it's not leaning any which way. This is someone who is going, in line with her straight Mercury finger as well. This is someone who is going to speak the truth, and she's going to do it for the right reasons. She's not going to speak the truth for anything other than the interest of everyone at play. But bear that in mind. Fingers that are flexible, the attributes that those fingers represent are also flexible. Now then, this is interesting. Around about the age of 53, 54, something like that, hard to say, there's a big move coming for this person. She's about to move, and this is on her left and her right hand, so she's been thinking about this for a while. She's going to move. Big move. Now, you can't be the governor of a state if you moved state, right? So we're going off topic a bit here. I don't think she's going to be the governor of Arizona for much longer, being that she's 53. Again, I only know that from Wikipedia. But with this reading, I've tried to determine what the palm could say based on what we know about a person. And what I know about this person is literally everything that I have said here in this video. And I'm just slowing down here because I've just noticed that the Jupiter finger on the left hand curls in slightly towards the thumb there. That's interesting. And that kind of shows us that her decision making has been reliant, the left hand, so this is how we're thinking internally, is reliant on her willpower and her logic, whereas the right shows us a much more practical approach to decision making, so that she has to adhere to the rules in the physical, in the practical, in her role, in her job. She follows the rules. However, I don't think, I think inherently she's got a drive there that is very powerful, very willful. And, as I've said, I mean, look at that Jupiter finger. On the left, it does look longer than on the right. I could be wrong. It's not the best representation here. But if that's the case, a long Jupiter finger, or a Jupiter finger as long as Saturn, like Margaret Thatcher had, or Megan Fox, the actress Megan Fox has, it's a superiority complex. She believes that she is better than others. I don't think that's what we have here. It is shorter, but there may well be the potential for this. I mean, I think we'd see it by now. This is a lady in almost mid-50s, so I think if she was going to develop one, she would have developed it by now. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. But, I hope you found this one interesting. I found it pretty interesting. I think overall let's just get to the point of this video. I think we do have what we can say here. I mean, look, you've got a low set thumb, a clear humanitarian, as well as everything else here. I don't think we've got the signs of a social justice, warrior, social justice warrior. And, everything about her hands kind of speak for the things that she, or at least I read about her, speaks for, So I can't see anything at all about this person that is crooked in nature or dishonest. I think we have here an authoritative leader, a righteous, certainly religious person who is working for the betterment of others. And I don't see anything untowards. So, and that's what the palm's telling me. So there we go. So maybe that's proven something, maybe it hasn't. In any case, I think we've gotten to the bottom of this one. We're not going to get any further with this one. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Please let me know your thoughts. Maybe you know more about this person. Maybe some of the signs in the palm you have yourself. Let me know. And let me know who you'd like me to read next week. I know Elon Musk, that's on my list. I do want to do him as well at some point. I just wanted a bit of variety this week, and I wanted to kind of follow on from last week. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Really important that everyone does that. Please do. Thank you. And yeah, see you on the next one.